Some people climb Everest, others balance lawnmowers on their chin for 6 hours. Welcome to humanity's talent show of chaos. 1. The man who held his breath while holding on to fame. Meet Stig Severinsen, the Danish freediver who decided that oxygen was just a suggestion. He once held his breath underwater for 22 minutes. 22. That's longer than most of us can hold a thought. To prepare, he trained with monks, meditated, and probably had long conversations with his lungs. But the most shocking part isn't the record, it's that he did it for fun. There was no danger, no shark, no treasure at the bottom, just a man, a stopwatch, and a questionable relationship with common sense. Scientists called it a feat of biology. Everyone else called it a cry for attention you can't hear because he's underwater. 2. The woman who grew the world's longest fingernails, then regretted it. Lee Redmond from Utah didn't trim her nails for nearly 30 years. When measured, they stretched a combined 28 feet, the length of a school bus if that bus were made of pure inconvenience. She said it took her hours to wash dishes, get dressed, or even scratch an itch. Her hands looked like something Tim Burton would draw on a bad day. And for what? To hold a world record nobody wanted to challenge. Tragically, a car crash in 2009 broke them all off, which, in a weird way, might have been the universe saying, okay, that's enough character development. 3. The man who balanced a lawnmower on his chin because gravity was bored. Ashrita Furman has over 700 Guinness records, which sounds impressive until you realize most of them involve balancing random objects on his face. His pièce de resistance? Balancing a running lawnmower on his chin for more than 6 minutes. That's right, a spinning blade of death hovering inches above his arteries. He didn't win money, he didn't even get free lawn care, just a certificate and probably a lifelong distrust of barbers. Guinness officials called it incredible concentration. I call it a polite way of saying Darwin Award audition. 4. The man who ate an entire airplane. Because sandwiches were too mainstream. Michel Lotito, a French performer known as Monsieur Mangetout, took the phrase "eat anything" way too literally. Over 2 years, he consumed an entire Cessna 150 airplane. Yes, the whole plane, piece by piece. He chewed metal, glass, and rubber, all washed down with mineral oil like some kind of industrial smoothie. Doctors confirmed his stomach lining was unusually thick, basically Teflon coated by evolution itself. Imagine inviting him to dinner. Chicken or beef? No thanks, I brought my own wing. When asked why, he simply said he wanted to be different. Mission accomplished, Michelle. You're now the reason airport security checks people for silverware. 5. The man who pulled a 188-ton train. With his teeth in Malaysia, a man named Radhakrishnan Velu decided the gym was for amateurs and pulled an entire train using only his teeth. 2 locomotives, 188 tons, one very confused dentist. The man claims years of meditation strengthened his jaw, though I'm guessing he just really hated braces. The crowd cheered, Guinness verified, and somewhere a dentist added emotional trauma to their resume. He said it was about mind over matter. Sure, but it's also about finding out your teeth are stronger than half the country's infrastructure. Somewhere, a superhero origin story just got jealous. 6. The woman who collected the most rubber ducks. Because therapy wasn't enough, Charlotte Lee from Washington holds the record for owning over 9,000 rubber ducks. Her home looks less like a collection and more like a yellow plastic cult. Every shelf, every wall, every inch of space, quack. She's got pirate ducks, doctor ducks, astronaut ducks, even a duck dressed as Elvis. Her neighbors think it's quirky. Her plumber thinks it's a business opportunity. When asked why she started collecting, she said, "They make me happy." Which is sweet, until you realize she's living one bathtub accident away from an avalanche. Still, if hoarding had a cheerful mascot, it'd wear sunglasses and float. 7. The guy who lived inside a balloon for 42 minutes. David Blaine has nothing on a British man named Steve Easton, who climbed inside a giant inflated balloon and managed to stay there for 42 minutes. He called it an artistic stunt. Everyone else called it Tuesday at the ER waiting room. He was sealed in a bubble with just an air hose and sheer British stubbornness. Guinness gave him a plaque. His friends probably gave him an intervention. There's something beautifully human about it, though. How far we'll go just to say, hey, look what I can do. Steve, You didn't just set a record, you set the global standard for utterly unnecessary claustrophobia. 8. The man who covered his entire body in bees and smiled about it. Ruan Liangming from China decided the best use of his weekend was to become a human beehive. He stood still while 637,000 bees, roughly 60 pounds of flying panic, covered every inch of him. His secret? He claimed he was calm and used queen pheromones, which is basically bug cologne. The man looked like a fuzzy statue of regret. He didn't flinch, didn't move, and somehow didn't die, proving once again that humanity's greatest strength is its total lack of self-preservation. When asked what he felt during the experience, he said, warm. That's one word for it. Another would be insane. 9. The man who sat in ice for 2 hours, because comfort is for quitters. Wim Hof, better known as the Iceman, submerged himself in ice cubes for 120 minutes straight. No jacket, no gloves, just the kind of confidence you only get from ignoring every survival instinct evolution ever gave you. He said it's about mind control and breathing. I say it's about having a thermostat set permanently to psychopath. Doctors studied him, scientists applauded him, and every polar bear collectively said, "Buddy, you can have it." His training method, deep breathing and pure delusion, apparently lets him resist cold. Personally, I resist cold by turning up the heater, but hey, maybe that's why I'm not in Guinness. 10. The man who grew a 30-foot beard and paid for it in daily suffering meet Sarwan Singh of Canada, whose beard is longer than most people's careers. It stretches 8 meters, 30 feet. That's not facial hair anymore. It's a biohazard. He wraps it around his body like a wool scarf made of regret. Every morning routine for him is an extreme sport. Washing it, drying it, untangling it from ceiling fans. Imagine sneezing. The collateral damage alone could level a small village. He says it's a symbol of faith, patience, and discipline. Sure, but it's also a trip hazard. The man doesn't need shampoo. He needs a landscaping crew. 11. The woman who had 4,000 piercings and probably jangled in the wind. Elaine Davidson from Brazil holds the record for the most piercings on a human body, over 4,000. Ears, eyebrows, tongue, arms, places you don't even want to imagine. She reportedly carries several pounds of metal on her at all times, turning every airport security check into a full-blown symphony. She said it makes her feel more spiritual. I'm not sure what religion involves 4,000 tiny holes, but I'm betting it comes with a discount at the magnet store. It's bold, it's unique, and it's exactly what happens when body art meets inventory management. 12. The guy who ran a marathon while pulling a car. If you think running 26 miles is hard, try doing it with a 1-ton vehicle chained to your waist. Alistair Richards from the UK completed an entire marathon, dragging a small car behind him like a discount action hero. He said it was to test the limits of human endurance. Translation: I made a bet I couldn't back out of. Every step looked like an argument between his muscles and gravity. The crowd cheered, Guinness applauded, and the car probably applied for therapy afterward. Some people chase medals, others tow them. 13. The man who spent 16 years tattooing the entire Bible on his body. Walter White, no, not that one, from Texas, spent 16 years getting every single word of the King James Bible tattooed onto his skin. Genesis to Revelation, front to back, verse to verse. You can't accuse this man of skipping church. He is the church. He said it was a spiritual calling. I say it's a full-body spoiler alert. His back alone could double as a Sunday sermon, and I can only imagine the awkward small talk at the tattoo parlor. So, what are we doing today? Leviticus chapter 5. The dedication is impressive. The pain tolerance? Biblical. 14. The guy who collected belly. Button lint for 26 years. Graham Barker from Australia did what no one asked for. He saved his belly button lint every single day for 26 years. He sorted it by color, stored it in jars, and proudly displayed it like fine wine. Scientists studied him out of curiosity. Everyone else just called him that guy you don't sit next to on the bus. The total haul weighed nearly half a pound, proof that even laziness can become legacy. When asked why he started, he said, "I was curious." That's not curiosity, Graham. That's an origin story for a future museum no one will visit. 15. The man who jumped rope with an 18-wheeled truck Jiangji from China performed a feat so dumb it looped back to impressive. He used a moving semi-truck as a jump rope. The truck drove forward, The rope spun underneath it, and somehow he didn't end up as road art. It took precision, timing, and an almost criminal level of optimism. Guinness verified it, the crowd gasped, and the truck driver probably aged 10 years in stress. It's the perfect record for anyone who's ever looked at death and said, "You won't." Somewhere, the Grim Reaper just gave him a standing ovation. 16. The woman who lifted a car with her hair. Zhang Tingting, also from China, used her ponytail to lift a car weighing over 1 ton. Her secret weapon? Inner strength, she said, and probably an iron scalp conditioner. The audience watched in horror as her hair strained under a car like it was auditioning for a shampoo commercial from hell. When asked why she did it, she said, "To show women are strong." True, but so is rope, and it doesn't need a stylist. Guinness gave her a certificate. I'd give her a lifetime supply of conditioner and therapy. Somewhere, Rapunzel's taking notes. 17. The man who took the world's longest shower, because cleanliness became a personality. Kevin Soap King McCarthy from the US decided one morning that hygiene wasn't just a habit. It was a lifestyle. He took a shower that lasted 341 hours. That's over 2 weeks of standing under running water like a confused aquatic statue. The man pruned into a new evolutionary form somewhere between human and raisin. He claimed it was a statement about modern excess, which is ironic coming from someone who used enough water to refill an Olympic pool. Guinness called it dedication. His neighbors called it a drought. If cleanliness is next to godliness, Kevin's basically a saint with wrinkled feet. 18. The woman who kissed a car for 31 hours straight. In a Texas contest known as the Kissathon, participants had to press their lips against a car for as long as humanly possible. The winner, Lacey Anderson, kissed that vehicle for 31 straight hours. No food, no sleep, no dignity left. Her prize? The very car she'd been making out with. It's the only relationship where carpool was literal. Imagine explaining that to your kids one day. How did you and Dad meet? Through long-term vehicular affection. The real question isn't how she won. It's how the poor car ever trusted humans again. 19. The guy who balanced. 17 spoons on his face, because gravity needed a laugh. Edibar Elchiev from Georgia holds the record for balancing 17 metal spoons on his body, mostly on his face. The photo looks like a man caught between a magic trick and a cry for help. He said it proves humans have hidden magnetic energy. Scientists said, no, it proves sweat makes things sticky. Either way, he looked like a malfunctioning kitchen appliance. Guinness gave him a certificate. His mother probably gave him a towel. Somewhere out there, a refrigerator is jealous. It's been holding magnets for decades and never got a trophy. 20. The man who bungee jumped over 700 times in one day. Colin Phillips decided to spend his birthday defying gravity and common sense. He jumped off a crane over 700 times in 24 hours, bouncing up and down like a human yo-yo with commitment issues. He claimed it was about pushing limits. I call it speed running a midlife crisis. By the end, he looked less like a daredevil and more like a noodle trying to evolve into soup. His spine probably still files complaints every morning. Guinness verified the record. His chiropractor verified early retirement. 21. The woman who collected over 15,000 toothbrushes and no friends. Patricia Edwards of New York owns the world's largest toothbrush collection. 15,000 of them. Every color, every brand, every shape known to oral history. Her home looks like a dental museum curated by someone who's lost all sense of proportion. She claims it started as a hygiene education project. It ended as a full-blown obsession with bristles. Her husband once said he hasn't seen a single spare drawer in years. Guinness applauded her dedication. Colgate probably sends her Christmas cards. Somewhere, the tooth fairy saw this and thought, "Lady, get help." 22. The man who wore 260 t-shirts at once. Fashion's final boss. In Sri Lanka, a man named Sanath Bandara broke the record by wearing 260 shirts at the same time. That's roughly the weight of a refrigerator strapped to his torso. By the end, he looked like a walking laundry pile on strike. It took a full team just to peel him out of his cotton cocoon. He said it was about spirit and endurance. I say it was about laundry day gone horribly wrong. His family probably lost sight of him around shirt number 120. Somewhere, a washing machine just started sobbing quietly. 23. The man who built the world's largest rubber band ball and refused to stop Joel Wall from Florida, spent 6 years building a rubber band ball weighing over 9,000 pounds. That's 4 tons of office supply insanity. His backyard looked like a science experiment gone rogue. He said it started as a hobby, then became a calling. That's one way to say, I lost control of my free time. When Guinness came to measure it, they had to use a forklift. Eventually, Ripley's Believe It or Not bought it for display, which is fitting, because Believe It or Not is exactly what everyone said when they saw it. Somewhere, an office manager still cries over the missing stationery budget. 24. The woman who owned the most Christmas trees, year-round Janice Graham from Oregon, didn't believe in seasonal decor. She owned and decorated 425 fully lit Christmas trees all at once. Every room in her house looked like Santa exploded. She had trees in the kitchen, the bathroom, even one in the garage labeled the sporty one. She said it made her feel festive all year. Her electric bill said otherwise. Neighbors described the house as cheerful but threatening. Somewhere, the North Pole filed a trademark complaint. Guinness called it heartwarming. The fire department called it a loaded gun made of pine. 25. The man who spent 15 years living with a running Ferris wheel in his yard. John Ivers from Indiana didn't just love amusement parks, he became one. Over 15 years, he built and lived beside a fully functional backyard Ferris wheel that ran day and night. His neighbors said it was a bit loud. That's code for, we can't sleep because there's a carnival spinning outside our window. He powered it with an old tractor engine because nothing says safety like farm machinery and gravity. When asked why he did it, he said, I just wanted my grandkids to smile. I'm sure they did, right before calling Child Protective Services. 26. The woman who spent 20 years knitting the world's longest scarf. Helen Grant from Wales spent 2 decades knitting a scarf over 4,500 meters long. That's nearly 3 miles of wool and pure determination. It's less of a scarf and more of a highway lane made of yarn. She said it was relaxing. I'd call it a cry for help disguised as a blanket. When she displayed it, people could see the scarf stretch across fields, roads, and her entire social life. Guinness applauded her patience. Sheep everywhere held a moment of silence. Somewhere, winter just gave up trying to compete. 27. The guy who spent 48 hours inside a giant balloon dog costume. In Japan, a man named Hitoshi Igarashi spent 2 full days sealed inside a massive inflatable balloon dog costume, complete with an air tube and 0 regrets. He said it was performance art about identity and confinement. Everyone else said it was a man roasting himself alive for Guinness glory. When they deflated him at the end, he emerged drenched, dizzy, and spiritually broken, but victorious. If he ever applies for another job, he can honestly write team player who thrives under pressure. Somewhere, the Michelin man just felt threatened. 28. The man who walked a tightrope between 2 flying planes. You'd think stay inside the plane would be a universal rule. Not for Canadian. Stuntman Spencer Seabrook, who decided to walk a slack line between 2 moving aircrafts. Mid-air, thousands of feet above ground. No parachute, no harness, just bad life choices held together by balance and bravado. Guinness called it a record of precision. I call it Darwin waiting with popcorn. When asked what motivated him, he said, I wanted to feel alive. That's a strange way of saying, I wanted to give my mom a panic attack. 29. The man who watched TV for 94 hours straight and probably forgot his own name. A Canadian named Suresh Yoakum set the record for the longest continuous TV watching session, 94 hours of non-stop screen time. He said it was exhausting. Really? Who could have guessed? By hour 70, he was reportedly hallucinating plot twists that didn't exist. He wasn't watching television anymore. He was television. Guinness gave him a medal. His brain gave him a blue screen of death. Somewhere, Netflix heard this story and whispered, challenge accepted. 30. The guy who took a selfie. Every day for 20 years, and somehow looked the same. Noah Kalina, a photographer from New York, took 1 selfie every single day starting in 2000. After 20 years, he released a time-lapse video showing his face aging in real time, except it barely did. The internet said, he looks the same. Guinness said, congratulations. Dermatologists said, what moisturizer is that? Watching the video feels like staring at an ancient vampire adjusting his lighting. He said it was about documenting the passage of time, I say it's proof that modern men age slower than dial-up connections. 31. The woman who broke. 25. Watermelons on her head. In a minute, Olga Liashchuk from Ukraine became a Guinness legend by smashing 25 watermelons with her forehead in 60 seconds. That's a new level of "don't mess with me." Each melon burst like a bad decision at a summer barbecue. She trained for months, because apparently headbutting fruit requires conditioning. When she finished, her face was covered in watermelon juice and triumph. She said it made her feel powerful. I'm sure it did, but imagine explaining that to your doctor. Any recent head trauma? Yes, and it's in the record books. 32. The man who stacked 1,016 Jenga blocks on a single piece, because physics is optional. Tystar Valianti from Arizona achieved the impossible. He balanced 1,016 Jenga blocks on a single standing piece. The tower looked like a skyscraper built by a drunk architect. One wrong breath and it would have collapsed like the global economy. But somehow, it held. He said it took focus, patience, and inner peace. I say it took caffeine, insomnia, and a total disregard for sanity. When Guinness confirmed it, his wife just sighed and said, "So, you can focus when you want to." Somewhere, an entire engineering department collectively gave up. 33. The man who balanced a chainsaw on his tongue. Because Darwin wasn't working fast enough. In Germany, a performer named Ozzy Osbourne, no, not that one, balanced a running chainsaw on his tongue for 10 seconds. 10. The average person burns their tongue on coffee and learns a lesson. This guy said, "Hold my blade." It wasn't a metaphor or special effect. The engine was running, the chain spinning, and his tongue apparently made of titanium and regret. Guinness verified it, the audience screamed, and his dentist started buying vacation property. He said it's about trusting yourself. I'd say it's about not trusting him with anything sharp ever again. 34. The woman who ran a marathon backward. Because forward was too mainstream. Xu Zhenjin from China decided to add existential dread to cardio by running an entire marathon, backward. 26 miles, no looking ahead, just blind faith and strong calves. She trained for months by jogging in reverse through parks, confusing dogs and nearly every passerby. It took her 7 hours, 3 near collisions, and 1 apology to a mailbox. Guinness called it innovative. I call it an elaborate metaphor for modern life. Still, you've got to respect the commitment. Most of us can't even back out of a parking spot without screaming. 35. The man who spent 8 hours buried in baked beans. Because therapy was too expensive. In London, a man named Barry Kirk once spent 8 consecutive hours sitting in a bathtub filled with baked beans. He said it was for charity, but you can't help feeling it was also for attention. The smell alone must have violated international treaties. He described it as soothing. Everyone else described it as a human casserole. When Guinness arrived, they had to stir him to verify he was still alive. He set a record and possibly a new standard for awkward dinner conversations. Somewhere, Heinz is rethinking its marketing strategy. 36. The guy who traveled the world. Dressed as Superman and wasn't even asked to. Herbert Chavez from the Philippines loved Superman so much he underwent multiple surgeries to look like him. Then he traveled to 13 countries in costume, posing for photos and spreading hope. Guinness recognized him for most countries visited in superhero costume, which sounds inspiring until you realize he did all of it without a movie deal or a cape license. Imagine going through airport security like that. "Sir, please remove your super belt." He said he wanted to make people smile. Mission accomplished. Terrified children count as people, right? 37. The man who collected 1/200 traffic cones and still got fined for parking. David Morgan from Wales owns the world's largest private collection of traffic cones, over 1/200 of them. He's got orange ones, striped ones, vintage ones, even a glow-in-the-dark cone from the 80s. He says it's a cultural passion. His wife says it's why we don't have a dining room. The irony? He once got fined for illegal parking outside his own home, next to a mountain of cones that could have prevented it. Guinness called him dedicated. The rest of us call him the patron saint of roadwork detours. 38. The woman who built a house. Entirely out of wine corks? Maria Villanueva from Spain collected over 750,000 wine corks to build a small house. Walls, furniture, even the mailbox, all cork. She said it was eco-friendly. Critics said it was a fire hazard shaped like alcoholism. Each cork came from a different bottle, meaning she's either a legendary recycler or the most hydrated drinker in history. The structure actually passed safety inspection, though I'm guessing the inspector was too tipsy to notice. Guinness approved it. Wine companies applauded her dedication, and somewhere, a vineyard quietly wept for mercy. 39. The man who held the longest plank for over 9 hours. George Hood, a retired U.S. Marine, held a plank position for 9 hours, 40 minutes, and 10 seconds. That's not exercise, that's purgatory with better lighting. He listened to rock music the entire time and reportedly did 2,000 push-ups to stay loose. Meanwhile, my core gives up halfway through brushing my teeth. He said it was about mental strength. I say it was about not knowing when to quit. When he finally stood up, the floor filed for emotional damages. Guinness called him unstoppable. His abs filed for retirement benefits. 40. The woman who balanced 20 glasses on her chin during an earthquake. Nancy Soderbergh, an American performer, holds the record for balancing 20 full glasses on her chin. She set the record during a live performance, and halfway through, a mild earthquake hit. Everyone ran. She didn't flinch. The glasses didn't even wobble. That's not balance. That's witchcraft. Guinness crowned her the Queen of Stillness. Somewhere, every yoga instructor collectively bowed. She said it's about finding calm in chaos. I call it having more composure than anyone who's ever spilled coffee on themselves. 41. The man who survived inside a barrel at Niagara Falls. On purpose. In 1901, Annie Edson Taylor became the first person to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel. But in 1928, a guy named George Stathakis decided to one-up her. He built a giant wooden barrel and took the same trip down, bringing along, wait for it, his pet turtle. He survived the fall but was stuck inside for 22 hours because rescuers couldn't open it. The turtle made it out fine. Guinness didn't exist yet, but if it had, the award would have read, "To the man who made a waterfall his roommate." Somewhere, Poseidon just shook his head. 42. The woman who owned 5,000 umbrellas and still got caught in the rain. Nancy Hoffman from the U.S. owns the world's largest umbrella collection, over 5,000 of them, each with a theme: animal umbrellas, celebrity umbrellas, even one shaped like Elvis's head. Her entire house looks like a storm preparedness warehouse sponsored by chaos. The irony? She admits she rarely uses them because she doesn't want them to get wet. Imagine explaining that to your insurance agent. Yes, the flood destroyed my umbrella collection. Guinness gave her the record. Logic gave up around umbrella number 300. 43. The guy who balanced a bicycle on a rope across a canyon, upside down. Eskil Ronningsbakken, a Norwegian stuntman, rode a bicycle upside down along a tightrope stretched across a canyon. He called it a moment of peace. Everyone watching called it a premonition of disaster. No safety net, no harness, just balance, gravity, and poor decision-making. Guinness verified it, though they reportedly watched through their fingers. When asked what inspired him, he said, "I wanted to confront fear." Mission accomplished, Eskil. You confronted it, traumatized it, and left it shaking in a corner. 44. The man who played the piano. While skydiving, Steve Langton from Britain decided that playing piano wasn't hard enough unless you added terminal velocity. He strapped a lightweight keyboard to his body, jumped from a plane, and played a full song while falling at 120 mph. Guinness confirmed it as the first skydive piano performance. Somewhere, Beethoven rolled over in his grave, muttering, "That's not what fortissimo means." He said it was exhilarating. I bet it was. Nothing says artistic passion like performing Chopin while praying your parachute opens on beat. 45. The woman who spent 40 days in a glass box with 400 snakes. Samantha Lynn from South Africa holds the record for the longest voluntary confinement with snakes. 40 days, 400 snakes, one woman with questionable hobbies. She said it helped her connect with nature. I say it helped her disconnect from sanity. She slept next to pythons, cobras, and other things that consider hugging a full-body stranglehold. Guinness called it bravery. Everyone else called it evolution's clerical error. When she finally stepped out, she said the snakes were gentle. Lady, you were one hiss away from becoming a myth. 46. The man who ate the most Big Macs, every day for 50 years. Donald Gorski from Wisconsin has eaten over 34,000 Big Macs. 1 or 2 a day since 1972. He's kept every receipt, every container, every shred of proof. Guinness crowned him the king of consistency and questionable nutrition. His cholesterol? Surprisingly normal. His doctor? Probably exhausted. He said, "I just love Big Macs." That's not love. That's a long-term relationship with sesame seeds. The man's basically 40% beef and 60% special sauce. Somewhere, Ronald McDonald just nodded respectfully and whispered, "Legend." 47. The man who built a real-life Noah's Ark, just because he could. Johann Huybers, a Dutch carpenter, spent 20 years building a full-scale replica of Noah's Ark using only hand tools and stubbornness. It's over 400 feet long, floats on water, and is open for tours. When asked why, he said, "I had a dream about a flood." His neighbors said, "We had dreams about silence." Guinness gave him a certificate. The local zoning board gave him a headache. It's an impressive feat of craftsmanship, and possibly the world's most overbuilt houseboat. Somewhere, Noah's ghost just clapped politely. 48. The woman who collected over 2,000 clown dolls and still slept at night. Lottie Woods from England owns the world's largest clown doll collection, 2,000 painted smiles staring from every corner of her home. Her house looks like the inside of a nightmare factory. She says they bring her comfort. Everyone else says they bring heart palpitations. Visitors claim the eyes follow them. Lottie insists, "That's just imagination." "Sure, Lottie. That's what every horror movie says before Act 2. Guinness praised her dedication. Her neighbors prayed for sage and holy water. She smiles proudly in every photo, surrounded by porcelain faces that whisper, "Sleep tight." And there you have it, the Hall of Fame for humans who looked at common sense and said, "Nah, I'm good." Which one deserves a medal for stupidity? You decide. Drop your pick for the dumbest record below. And hey, maybe your talent for bad decisions will make next year's list.